My name's Frankie Johnson. I found out in 2020 that I had a broken back somehow. Always healthy, physically fit, never had any back problems that I knew of. All of a sudden, I got a broken back and I'm falling apart. Elected first back surgery in March of 2021. The surgery went fine. I didn't really listen to my doctor the way that I should have. Second back surgery, a couple of weeks later in April 2021, left me in a walker for 2 months in a deep, dark spot, man. I didn't know I was ever going to walk again. I finally got to the point where I realized that I was going to have a life again. When I was on the walker for 2 months, I started watching YouTube and found these guys in the Yukon, Alaska, going on these sheep hunts, and it just motivated me, gave me a little hope. I reached out to a guy that made some of these films, and he was very helpful. Still a long, hard road, but I made up my mind that these doll sheep up above Alpine is what I wanted to see. If God gave me the ability to ever be able to do anything like that, I prayed that was in my future. And I went ahead and booked my first sheep hunt ever to Alaska, fall of 2021, 6 months after my back surgery when I still couldn't hardly go. And that just gave me the motivation to want to work hard, to get better. Day after day, week after week, month after month, it was just a desire for me to see some of God's creation that's just so beautiful that very few people have ever seen. And here I am now. I gave it my all and I sent just being there and walking on ground that very few people, if any, have ever walked on. I would just encourage anyone in a similar position, a deep, dark spot, just to find that one little piece of hope that you can hold on to. The reason for this is to hopefully find somebody that it needs to resonate with, that you do have an opportunity. You do have a possibility. You got to give it your all and send it. I had a very strong family life growing up, still do to this day. My dad is from Middle Georgia, grew up basically as a sharecropper. Mom grew up in Tennessee, Knoxville. Mom and Dad both moved to Atlanta right after high school. Dad is the hardest working man that I know. Anything that Dad made up his mind that he was going to do, he did it and did it very well. And Mom's a hard worker too. They persevered together, didn't have anything, and brought us up with more than we could ever expect, had more than we deserved.
I can remember when he came along, we had become accustomed to do girls. And little boys are totally different from little girls, as most of you know, that have had both. He and I spent an awful lot of time together. I guess I probably introduced him to fishing, and I know I introduced him to hunting, and he still does both those things today. He's grown up to be a fine young man, and we're very proud of him.
I feel like all three of us, there was a time when parents just kind of, as long as everybody was safe and doing what they were supposed to do, we were pretty much free range. And the neighborhood we lived in, there were a lot of other kids, and there was always somebody to play with. There was an adventure. We had woods. Really, we were outside playing most of the time.
We were so close in age that we were so close. I mean, you threw every boyfriend ever dated in the lake. We had fun, and you were kind of my protector a little bit.
Yeah, I took up for you, that's for sure.
Did.
You didn't have the best taste in guys back then.
I just remember us just always being together.
Well, you were a wonderful little boy, but you were very active, accident prone too. All I had to do was to let you be outside and do your thing, and you were fine.
And ring the cowbell when she wanted you to come hunt.
Frankie loved to fish, and we lived near the lake, so he would go down on the lake when he was just really small. In fact, the neighbors questioned me about it, but Frankie loved it so much, and he was like an old soul. So he would go off fishing, and for me to get him into lunch or anything, I would ring the cowbell, and here he would come running, but he would sometimes not run so fast, and I would have to get after him.
That would depend on whether or not the fish were biting good.
That's true.
Yeah.
You were the smallest boy on the football team, And the football coach told me, he said, Faye, I would rather have one of Frankie than 10 of these big boys that I've got. Frankie is the strongest of those big boys.
Well, if you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough. Early years, really my whole life, to be honest with you, I've just always been kind of haphazard. Bulletproof, I would say, didn't care. They've always been able to fix me. So my thought process was, it don't hurt for too long. Go ahead and take that jump. Go ahead and ride that bull. Go ahead and do whatever. They'll fix it. Well, that catches up with you. And I was an adrenaline junkie. Back in my younger days, I raced motorcycles. I rode bulls. I played football, all the sports, really. I did actually print out a list of my medical history, which is well over a dozen surgeries. I think maybe 14, 15 different surgeries. 3-inch crack in the back of my skull when I was 10 years old. Knocked my eye out with a rock. I'm lucky to still have a right eye. 5 surgeries on that one eye.
Frankie and 2 of the boys in the neighborhood had been down to the lake fishing all morning, and I was cleaning out the motorhome for us to go on the weekend trip. And the boy, his friend, threw a rock, and he hollered, "That Frank!" He thought that it was going to hit you in the head, but it hit him. Frank turned around, and it hit him in the eye. He came to the door, and he said, "Mom, I've been in an accident." And I said, "Oh, Frank," and his eyeball was hanging out of the socket. I was calm as a cucumber. And I said, "Oh, you'll be fine. You sit here in the car while I call your daddy until we're going up here to the hospital, and you'll be fine. Just a minute." And so I got my purse, called Frank, and he told him to meet me at the hospital. Frankie's had a real bad accident.
Whenever I found out about your eye, your eye was the worst thing that really happened to you growing up. And when I found your mother called me and told me what was going on, I came down Cooper Lake Road sideways.
Yeah.
In my old truck. It really flew with all of it. And I knew it was serious. He had already told me. And when I got there, I found out how serious it really was. I always remember how helpless I felt.
Yeah,
No.
that's
There
the way
was
I felt.
nothing I could do.
Well, there was so much that y'all had to deal with, I'm sure I wouldn't have
I'm
handled it
so
any better.
thankful you're still here, Frankie. When we start thinking about all this.
I've lived a pretty hard life when it comes to that sort of thing, but my family's awesome. As I began to get a little bit older, 14, 15, 18, 20, I just fell in love with the outdoors. And, everybody was going partying and stuff. I was going hunting or fishing just to get me outside. The outdoors is my church. That's where I feel the most at peace and where I think best and I clear my head. That's always been a huge part of me. My wife knew that very well getting into this 30-year marriage that we now have.
So Frankie and we have a long history, and I think our history was, of course, it was planned. Everything was planned, but we didn't know it was planned. So at Christmas one year, his mother made a scrapbook. We were sitting in this living room. Frankie's looking through. We're just sitting side by side, and we're just flipping the pages or whatever. And he goes, "Oh, there I am." And I looked down, and I said, "There I am." I don't think I was at King Springs the next year. I think I was at another elementary school. And then my parents, we moved around just a little bit. We moved back to Smyrna, 1980-81 school year. And Frankie and I were in the same class. So we were friends in high school, had been friends, didn't know it. And then we kind of came back around in high school. We were friends. We shared the same friends. Of course, he was a football player, so, woo, woo, woo. And then we graduated in 85. Did not see him for 8 years after we graduated. My best friend saw him out one afternoon and was like, "You need to call Kelly. You still single? Y'all need to go out on a date." Anyway, he called me, I bet you 2 or 3 months, kept trying to get me to go out with him, and I just couldn't, or I was working, I was sick. It was always something. Just makes me giggle. Saw him at Rio Bravo, which used to be up on Barrett Parkway in Kennesaw. And we went there with my friend Linda his friend Steve, which I was also friends with in high school. All four of us went to high school together. We met there, and I did the girl thing. I said, I need to go to the bathroom. Let's go to the bathroom. So Linda went with me. I walked in there, and of course, I looked at her and I went, I am marrying Frankie Johnson. I mean, I will marry him today. And she looked at me like I was crazy. Well, a year and a half later, we were married. He just had this energy about him, quick wit and fun. Didn't stop laughing or smiling, making little jokes. The way he looked at me, I had never felt anything like that before. Just being around him just made me so happy, and he was just wonderful. So I just knew it. It was just a spark.
As I'm getting older, raising my family, we get married, have children, and, life is wonderful. The reality of it is I had nothing to worry about. I had my health, I had my family, and I had everything that I needed. That all changed.